Thank you, guys.
Welcome. I think
It's been a crazy afternoon, so.
it's just one of many.
I know.
So it doesn't tell you how old they are?
There we go, good.
It's a two-pointer. It is a two-pointer. Hey, that's better than 0. Well, you. How are you? Yeah.
I don't know, because she's a basketball coach. So she has to watch the morning.
Hi. Okay. All right, hi everybody. I think I've gotten a chance to meet almost everybody, but and thank you for those of you who let me visit your classes the last time. I really enjoyed that and getting a chance to talk to people today. I've been so impressed with the professionalism, the kindness between staff and students. It's really been something I've been really impressed with. So, so I'm here to provide some professional development in literacy. So when I think about just the classroom observations, I'm also drawing on research related to literacy, and I want to share with you the area of instruction that for me has been the most meaningful in designing lessons. So about 20 years ago, some research began on connecting student achievement to instruction in classrooms. And the project involved a data collector that would go into the classes in elementary schools in the beginning of the year and collect student data, and then throughout the year, they would come in for an hour of literacy and they would code everything the teacher did in the classroom and everything the students did in the classroom. And then at the end of the year, they also collected data on student achievement, and then they correlated to find out what kinds of instruction were the most significantly correlated to student achievement. So what was working in the data that connected instruction to achievement? So there were 4 things that really stood out, and they put this together in this model of cognitive engagement. So that's what I want to share with you. It's a way of approaching instruction and designing lessons for students. So the 4 areas that were the highest correlated to reading, and there we go. The highest amount of growth was when there was coding for higher level thinking in the classes. When teachers were coded for teaching strategies. When the students were involved with active learning, and when there was a student support stance. So I'm going to talk to you about each of those 4 areas of higher growth. So they were in the coding process. They were coded for either lower level thinking or higher level thinking. So the more that teachers were coded for higher level thinking with their students, the higher the student achievement scores were. So I'm going to go through each of these with you just to give you an idea of what they are. So higher level thinking was coded not necessarily by the questions that teacher asked, because teachers could ask really strong questions, but students weren't always responding at a higher level. So the coding with that was really only when the students were responding at a higher level, but it was coded for higher level thinking. So oftentimes, the teacher might have asked a higher level question to the students, but the teacher needed to prompt the students to go in depth. So prompt them to explain their thinking, elaborate on their first response. So the idea of higher level thinking is that children are challenged. The thinking is going beyond the facts in the text. So we're connecting to a big idea, we're applying this text to our lives or to the world. We might evaluate the text, interpret the text as thought response. Talk would be exploratory with higher level thinking. So lower level thinking was coded in this way. If the response was very short for the students, a couple words, it was coded as lower level thinking. If the response had a right or a wrong answer, it was coded for lower level thinking. If it was a fill in the blank answer, it was coded for lower level thinking. And oftentimes this was checking students' memory or their understanding of a text in a factual way. So it's not to say that that is bad to do. It's just to say, I think as teachers we need to watch our balance. And we tend to do a lot of this and not enough of the higher level thinking. So more higher level thinking meant more student achievement in the scores. So I think our challenge as teachers is to be thinking, how are we getting students to think at higher levels in our classes? Okay, so strategy instruction was coded as positive, and the strategy instruction generally, teachers were doing three things. They were explaining a purpose for why they were doing something, and there was a rationale for it. So students were being explicitly kind of told how this is going to help you be a better reader. And there was usually a piece of transfer. So beyond this text, I can use what I just learned in another situation. So there was an explicit kind of connection outside of that text. So here's an example of what a teacher said that would have been coded for higher level or for strategies. She said, we are going to use a Venn diagram to help us see similarities and differences between tadpoles and frogs. Strong readers use charts and diagrams to help them organize the information they learn from a book. We will use our Venn diagram to help us write what we learned about frogs and toads. When you are reading, you can use a graphic organizer to help you organize information you are learning. Okay? So that would be including all those three pieces to it. So strategic teaching. So, and that was contrasted with a skill, and the skills did not have the same correlation to student achievement. So the skill was you are working on something in this particular text to show that you can do that. So cause and effect would be a skill if it's something that shows that I can fill out this worksheet and answer the question of cause and effect here. It could become a strategy if the students understood how to think in this process, why they would want to be thinking about cause and effect, and how they could use it outside of that worksheet. So, so identifying fact and opinion on a worksheet would be considered a skill. So again, like identifying main idea and details, if it's like a worksheet and you figured it out in this particular text, that's a skill. But it's also an important strategy. So we want children to be reading, to be paying attention to main ideas. So we can present things to students in a way that they understand why it's important, how it helps them as a reader, and how that can transfer for them to different situations. When can they use that beyond this particular situation? So strategies versus skills had more student achievement. Okay, so for a student-centered stance, the teacher was either coaching students, so prompting them to do something. The teacher was modeling, which was a very explicit demonstration. Watch, I'm going to show you how I am using this Venn diagram to organize my thinking. Very explicitly showing them, demonstrating. And then students were working. The teacher was walking around, watching the students work and giving feedback. So all of those had high student achievement. Teacher-directed stance. So the teacher was telling the students what to do. So giving directions. You're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then next do this. And recitation. So the teacher asks a question, one student responds. Teacher asks a question, one student responds. Teacher asks a question, one student responds. So those two codes when we saw those codes, the student achievement went down or didn't rise as high as the other stance. Okay, so active participation. Students were coded as reading, and they had 3 codes for active participation. Students were independently reading, students were choral reading, or students were partner reading. So whenever they were coded for those 3 things, student achievement went up. And writing was similar. When students were all writing, they all had materials, they were all writing, student achievement went up. Turn and talk and choral response, achievement went up. So a teacher is going to present a higher level question to the class, and instead of one student answering it, the teacher said, turn to the person next to you and tell them what you're thinking. So all the students were talking. And then manipulating, so where students were using materials, maybe they were sorting words, or they were doing something conceptually where they were manipulating materials, where all students were manipulating materials, student achievement went up. So to contrast that, the passive participation, when the reading had turn taking or round robin reading, student achievement was not as high. When there was turn taking for writing, student achievement was not as high. So there's a difference here between like the teacher modeling something, explicitly showing something, and then all the students picking up a pencil or a whiteboard and trying it together. That wouldn't be considered turn taking. Turn taking has to have a few steps in there. So turn taking with writing, where maybe one person's coming up and writing something and then sits down and another person comes up and writes something. If that was going on for an extended time, then student achievement was down. Oral turn taking, that one person at a time, was teacher was talking, student response. Teacher talked, one student responded. That recitation went down. And when students were coded for listening. I think this has been, for me, this has been a really powerful way to think about designing lessons. And I'm just going to come back to the, whether I've been teaching first grade or students at the University of Minnesota, I always am thinking about this when I design lessons. It's the part of research that has had the largest influence in my own instruction, and it has a lot of research behind it. So this project involved thousands of students and thousands of teachers across multiple states, and it repeated itself. The number one strongest finding was higher level thinking. So even of these 4, if you were going to focus on one thing that the research consistently said was very powerful, it was higher level thinking. Though I think I try to keep all of these in mind when I design lessons. So I wanted to, in just thinking about how to use our time, and knowing that you had a new curriculum, I thought that could be a useful focus for lesson planning and designing lessons. So what I'm proposing that we do is that the next time that I come to meet with you, you bring your texts that you're going to be working on in maybe the coming week or 2, and we collaborate as a team and design a lesson, just keeping in mind higher level thinking and all of these different components. Then you get a chance, teach the lesson, and then the next time I come back, we can look at the student work and talk about how it went, and reflect on it, maybe plan another lesson with those thoughts in mind. So that's what I'm proposing. I'm thinking it could be a good use of our time. That way you walk out with a lesson planned that you're ready to teach, and we get a chance to collaborate a little bit. But yes, questions?
I do titles, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to work for me.
That's a question for Amy, probably.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Does this anything in that strike you as something? well, actually, if I was using the model of cognitive engagement, you would turn to somebody next to you right now and you would tell them what you're thinking. So why don't we do that first? Why don't you just reflect on that model of cognitive engagement and turn to the person next to you and just tell them what comes to mind when you think about that model.
Right. Skill and strategy, like the skill, I could teach them to fill in their organizer, and I did that, and I'm actually applying it. Yeah, that I guess I didn't check back. Yeah, make sure it's a strategy. What I done with that.
Well, I think they all stand out to me, and I feel like I want to do it.
Yeah. That was my goal last year. So that's what I really get done. It got better, but it was so hard. I want to get you guys to talk.
And I mean, I would say definitely the active
Or the drumming. I got that.
So let's come back together as a whole group, and I do think there's a lot in just hearing your conversations. Lots of things are going on, and lots of people are kind of setting goals too, which I think is great. But does anybody have a question about this that you want to ask me or somebody else in the group?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
It talked about partner reading.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it was, but for partner reading, if they are reading together, are they supposed to both be reading at the exact same time, or one person and they switch?
I'm so glad you asked. They can alternate. So they found in the data that when two people were taking turns, that was correlated to higher achievement. So I think about it as far as having a larger group turn taking. There's less opportunity for each child to read, and it seems like two people sharing that text, reading back and forth, was still positive. Yeah, but a small group of 6 was not. So somewhere in there, you lose how many kids are actually reading, and we lose some kids' focus. They also did an attention span. So they did a quick span, and they counted how many kids were on task and not task, and that was also correlated to this. So it tended to be with larger groups with turn taking that more kids were visually off task from a quick scan of what the data collector could see. So
basically, the accountability is kind of disappearing.
it does. Yep. Right. Like when I asked you to turn and talk to somebody about what you were thinking, everybody engaged. So, and I guess what we find is that with students that not enough kids are actually going to that place of engagement with turn taking. But yes, 2 is fine. Yeah, any other questions related to that? Okay, well I don't have a lot else for today, but what I would love is if you could come to the next time we meet with a text selected that you would like to use. So if you could talk to your grade level partner and say, this is the text we're going to be using, and if there's particular objectives that you want to be working on with it, that's fine too. But just have kind of in mind what text you'd like to use to plan the lesson. It could be a whole group text, it could be a guided reading text. Either of those are great. So, and then bring your lesson, your Houghton book or whatever books that you have for resources with. And so that's the plan. So thank you so much for coming today and giving me your attention. And I know some of us are probably ready to go vote, so I don't want to keep you beyond this. If you're ready to go, that's just fine. So is there anything else, Amy, that you have? All right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.
I have been using my class.
I love that. And I love that they can keep it too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, sounds great.
That's a question about the students.
Oh, okay. No, I know, that's what I came to this. Right. So.
Well, have you been talking to this?
Right.
Well, I don't even know if it's that.
No, he's very
Right, so.
you know, I only had him for math, or not for that for science.
I wonder, could they send out something to you?
Totally different.
Yeah, thanks.
Totally different. I know. He's a little and so because of that, I think that kind of plays into it.
Yep, I will be right there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm happy to sit down with you and plan the lesson if that's what we're
Still
so.
basically,
I'm sorry, I don't see that.
I hope you
but I keep saying,
I don't think so.
Call me later. This year's better.
I'm waiting right at the
Yeah, and it's on too. But I've got We've got one book where he looked at doing similar stories. And so, he's gonna meet once a week. And so it's only he is cute. So I don't know if I should just take there.
So Jen was.
Yeah, so I knew it was her. Do you? Yeah. So she said that he's
Okay, well, there you go.
That's what I had with him last year.
That's
He would refuse to do a project, but I had him do as a group reason.
So,
You know, we told you to pick his partner for your,
so he, also make us the career It's a new look each week, it's just that they're like.
He's hard. Smart though, very smart.
Yeah.
Okay. We just finished one about,
I was forgetting what book I was trying to write. Oh, Journey to Joburg.
this
That
guy
is
is
a book on compassion. But I also have Molly's Pilgrim. And so,
So instead of,
so do you do
what
anything
should
with
this person
journeys
say?
that 2 days then?
Just saying, oh
You
yeah,
think?
the other class very good about the trial.
I'm not going to do anything.
But
Because I have those books that I just want to get to. So you'll just, this is only 2 days.
I think artists
Do you talk about them or anything, or do you digest with them? Higher level thinking. But it's only 2 days, so I don't have time. Molly's Pilgrim has to do with, they take a clothespin and make it into a pilgrim and, or an Indian in their class. And I had given my kids clothespins to decorate for themselves for their mountain climber. And they didn't do that. No one really did it. So I just wondered if they're going to decide, after reading that, to do that. But it's cool. But anyway, so that for that week, I want to do Journey to Success instead of, I don't know, it's up to you, but I have all those choices. Okay. And the kids love them. Okay. So sounds good for that week.
So, they're great teachers. When you have your meeting, is it okay if I come with? And
What meeting?
when she's working with the graders.
And then, meeting.
I guess, I'm not sure how much this is gonna, I just wanna learn something. I feel like for years, my heaviest training was with first and second grade, and for years and years and years, I've just been on my own. They say, okay, these are the kids you're working with this year they're in 4th grade, this year they're in 5th grade, this year they're in 6th grade, this year in the 2nd grade, and so I'm basically starting from scratch each time, going, okay, do they know their phonograms? Whoops, time's up, and then I'll plan something, and then, whoops, there is an event today.
I know.
And so I just don't know how much I'm helping though. It's, you know? I guess I just need to know more, like, if I can get some sort of feedback, this is what you're seeing. Because on my own, once a week, it's really hard.
To get to know what it is.
Yeah.
And what they need.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, I know Samantha needs to focus.
And
And slow
handwriting.
down. And what?
And her handwriting, but that's not
But
really
I think,
academic.
but I think all of the kids, what they really need to do is read at their level. And so it doesn't matter what grade you have, I don't feel. I feel like no matter what, they need to be reading at their level to improve. Because that's what the studies show,
Right.
that when they read
So
at their
then,
level,
I'm
then
trying to
they're going
find
to.
books, I mean,
Then use the
I just-
SRAs. Just make it easy.
I don't
on
have
yourself.
those stories.
We all have it. I mean, we have.
You
SRA
still have them, because I
boxes,
thought they
yeah.
got all thrown in.
No, they're around. I have one in my closet.
Oh, okay.
But, that's what I would do. I mean, it's getting them reading.
Because I was
it's
told
working
to
on
use the
skills.
journeys, but, you know, it takes me 3-4 weeks to get through.
And then they're
just-
behind, because
yeah.
now you're not on the story well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you probably just don't want to do that. You probably want to, if you want to do those books, that's great, but don't try to do a page like they do it. Just have them read that next, because yours relates to the story, so just have them read those little stories you have in your book. That would work too.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing so
Yeah.
far. is
But
just
if you have a
reading
really
those
low
stories.
student, that's not going to help them if it's above their level.
Well, I've got 2 students in 3rd grade. One, now Samantha tested this year at like 2nd grade level on the testing that we did. But the year before, she tested as 3rd grade level. So I don't know if she was just like really focused that day or forgot things and was really.
So Frank, what's going on with those? Are we ever gonna get them working again?
Yes.
Oh, we are, okay.
Throw them in the garbage.
Well, no, I'm just wondering if it's like this week or never again, or who knows how long. I mean, it's been 2 weeks now, so I'm just.
Well,
A week, it's been a week.
we don't know quite yet because we have to do them individually, because we have nothing massed to be able to get them done. So it's touching
So-
everyone.
Oh, so you actually are fixing them right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So Laura's are done?
Floors are done.
Is that it?
That's it.
So you're gonna have to
Oh,
borrow
it's that
those.
long.
Well, you gotta figure I have other fires to put out too, so I'm
Mhm.
kinda
Yeah,
trying
like my
to do this and
computer
that.
almost every day. is
Guy and
crashed.
Sherry started in on the secondary side today. So hopefully if they can stick to the secondary and I can stick to the elementary, we can knock it out fairly decently. A lot of it depends on what's wrong with them. Some of them are stubborn and some go nice and quick.
Oh.
So I should be printing out my Socratic worksheets for.
So figure I did 23 of these today.
Wow, which
So
is
this
a lot
one-
of work.
This one went pretty good, and I was able to be left alone enough to go in there and concentrate on this one. So, I don't know how much I'm gonna get with Guy and Sherry doing it, because they're not as familiar with working with these as I am, so.
At least I have Moby Max so that kids can do it at home, so I'm doing it up on the screen with them, and they just don't focus the same as if they're each doing it themselves, you know?
Right.
But that's what I ended up doing, because my science, I'm wrapping it around that new curriculum. So it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and I know everybody wants it done for their room right now.
Well,
and-
because we all have 2 weeks of testing now to do, because,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. So,
That's why I'm trying to get them done as
So
quick
are you
as I
like
can.
trying to do at least one grade level and then another grade level so they can share?
Yeah, at least.
I mean,
and
at
this
least-
all happens because of an update?
We don't know for sure.
Okay.
Guy's been going back and forth with Google. Google doesn't understand it. They don't understand why the fix I found is working. So they say it doesn't make any sense.
I'm sorry.
But
Okay.
I don't
But they did an update, right?
know.
That's what happened?
We don't know if it's because of an update or not.